What is the purpose of life? We live in and day out, sometimes either dwelling on the past or worried about the future. And therefore, we tend to miss out on what's most important, living in the moment. What we have in front of us is a world that is equal yet different, peaceful yet violent, progressive yet retroactive. And as a global citizen, I think it is our duty to leave our mark, and a positive one at that. As I brainstormed these questions, I thought to myself, there must be a way through which I can combine my interests, whether those lie in the business field, investing, or entrepreneurship, and make an impact with those. As I had studied social entrepreneurship last year within my independent study and mentorship journey number one, under the mentorship of Mr. Joshua Meek, an American entrepreneur and politician, I had a taste of combining positive societal impact with my passions, which was reflected through my final product, which was my startup, Groundify LLC. But this time, I wanted to turn the tables a little bit, looking at how I can combine finance and social impact, another passion of mine. Therefore, making my money speak to my views, my opinions, my values, and my morals, all while driving a positive social impact. Hello everyone, my name is Gurnoor Narula, and I am incredibly grateful to be pursuing impact investing this year within ISM. Impact investing is essentially a form of investing into companies, portfolios, ETFs, and mutual funds with a specific lens. This lens, usually titled ESG, or Environmental, Social, and Governance, ensures that their entity that he or she is investing into provides some sort of social benefit within those lenses, such as either providing some environmental benefit or social benefit, upholding the responsibility towards the environment, or ensuring that a company is equitable and that their board represents all sorts of individuals. Starting from the basics such as this definition, I have grown to shape my knowledge within impact investing through primary and secondary resources. However, given the technical nature of impact investing and just the finance field itself, I decided to heavily concentrate and specialize within secondary sources this year. These individuals served as my primary resources: Mr. Joshua Meek, who served as my mentor last year and this year, and Mr. Ranjan Chandramani, a professional in the finance field in New York. Firstly, under Mr. Joshua Meek, who's the owner of Meek Industries and a local politician here in the Frisco area, I essentially learned the basics of trading, taking my first steps into the world of finance. From building my first portfolio to executing my first trade, which by the fact was AT&T, to playing online simulations about the stock market and even competing in global competitions about investing, I essentially started to take those first steps within the finance field, developing that level of confidence before I applied the lens of impact investing, as I mentioned before. Mr. Meek's guidance, patience, and values about teaching were instrumental in this role, as he helped me take each step myself, learning from the process and the experience on the way, and applying what I had learned from a few setbacks that I may have had to ensure that I had success in my portfolio and in my investment competitions. Growing from there, I also started to learn how to day trade and value invest with him, getting more technical into the terms, as he had experience with this as well. Within this, I started differentiating the different types of investing and started learning the basics of how to read the stock market, how to read graphs and analyze the financial data about each company before, again, I applied the impact investing lens, as that's sort of a layer within the finance industry. More importantly than the simple fundamentals and basics of the investment world that Mr. Meek taught me, he also taught me about the philosophy of being a leader, of being an investor, and of being a manager of your money. He made sure that that I understood that I'm reaching my goal not by trampling upon others and just simply using others, but by helping others, helping them achieve their goals while I'm achieving mine. This sort of philosophy about leadership essentially allowed me to shape the way I trade as an individual as well, as I made sure I put my money at the place where I received social impact, where I could say that because of this investment, I have positively impacted this group of people, or I've impacted the environment in a positive manner. In addition, the way I invested my money also set up a fundamental sort of foundation for my original work, which I will discuss later in the presentation. Next up for my primary resource was Mr. Ranjan Chandramani, who's an individual and finance professional at Ernst & Young, which is a consulting company. Mr. Ranjan Chandramani talked a lot about his professional and career outlooks and compared them with mine, which helped me grow while envisioning my future in the finance and entrepreneurship and social impact space. He helped me a lot with my college decisions, college choices, and majors to see which path I would like to pursue in the future, opening me up to different perspectives, different job opportunities, and different pathways for my future, both positive and both negative. Essentially, with him, I decided upon pursuing a degree within business, as I will talk about later, as I'm excited to announce where I'll be heading for the fall. In a different sense, I also realized that when a student shares a role within a mentor-student relationship, it's not always a one-way street where the mentor is giving you information and you're absorbing it. Sometimes it's also a two-way street where open discussions lead to sometimes disagreements or different viewpoints and perspectives. This was a similar occurrence as Mr. Ranjan Chandramani's field specializes within math-heavy derivative trading. And based on his job description, this helped me shape my sort of outlook, as this was maybe not a path I wanted to go into. And that's why I started exploring different options, such as venture capitalism, which eventually led me to impact investing, allowing me to combine my entrepreneurial and innovative capabilities with my interest in social entrepreneurship and social impact, with my preliminary interests and passions in the finance field. Next up is my secondary research, which, as you can see on the screen, is plentiful. I ranged from talking about articles about SPACs to talking about impact investing to researching the portfolios of many hedge funds and companies, and also looking about the job outlook within this industry. As you can see on the slide, I started off by talking about Wall Street and Silicon Valley and comparing the two, simply because of my discussions with Mr. Meek and Mr. Chandramani about my job outlook and my future within this field. Essentially, it helped me narrow down on the innovative side between Silicon Valley and the hardcore finance fields within Wall Street, and how both of them are sort of playing a balancing role, wherein Wall Street is trying to become more work-friendly and Silicon Valley is trying to derive more output and productivity from their workers, which helped me shape my outlook on job prospects and clear career outlooks based on this field, and also played a large role in my college decisions. Next up, I also started to talk about SPACs and research them based on a discussion I'd had with Mr. Meek in one of our mentor meetings. SPACs, for reference, are special purpose acquisition companies, and what they helped me decide and see was a new outlook about something about investments. And by learning how SPACs work, how they operate within the finance field, although I didn't directly apply them within my original work or final product, what I learned from learning about SPACs and simply diving into this field, which was completely new for me, sort of uncharted territory, what I'd learned is how to learn and how to grow as an individual once entering a new field. It definitely is scary and sometimes intimidating with so much information on your hands, but by simply tackling one specific topic, although it be its SPACs, which eventually I didn't use, but it's still a part of me that knows about those companies and that field of finance, so that when I grow into the future, not only do I know how to learn and tackle a new topic one step at a time, but I also know a little added knowledge about this new field within the finance industry. After SPACs, I decided to focus specifically and sort of hone in on what could be applied within my original work and final product. And therefore, I decided to explore impact investing and how it related to our current environment, COVID-19. Interestingly enough, I found out how impact investing, again, given its ESG lens, naturally helped actually within COVID-19, as it has the potential to play a huge role within communities, driving positive societal change, especially in this time of tension. If we break it down, what composes of the national economy is a strong backbone of local economies. And what impact investing does is, because of its focus on local businesses or promoting entrepreneurship and startups within the social impact field, is it shifts people away from individualism and brings people towards a community. Essentially, by doing that, transitioning in that sense, we strengthen local economies by pursuing impact investing within our local economic system, and therefore that's reflected within the national economy. And simply by breaking down these relationships and observing these trends, it played a pivotal role within my original work and within my final product, as I realized the importance and the capabilities that impact investing had, within as an application in times of crisis such as these. In addition to learning about impact investing and its relationships, I also did some hardcore research. And this secondary research revolved around a lot of novel reading, ranging from books such as The Intelligent Investors, A Beginner's Guide to the Stock Market, or the historical texts of the Arthashastra. And these books, in addition to the content that they taught me, which is truly invaluable, as these books serves as sort of the foundation for every budding investor, they taught me perseverance, as reading a lot of pages and synthesizing that information is as important as reading the book. It's important to take something away from that education you're gaining. On top of this secondary research, I did a lot of research on Columbia University's article on ESG investing in frontier economies. Now, this again was an extension of what I learned within impact investing's role in COVID-19, as it was again an application of my field, an application of what I was researching into the real world, which eventually again was pivotal in me transitioning from my original work to my final product, which I'll talk about later. But essentially, what I learned throughout the Columbia University article over ESG investing, which was a graduate thesis paper, was how there's a lack of awareness about ESG investing, and the terminology is very, very ambiguous since it's a new field. And this sort of helped me churn out a few ideas, and I started innovating on what my final product and original work could be, as this was a space where I identified a problem, again, utilizing my entrepreneurial skills. I identified a problem and figured out a way to grow on it so that I could spread awareness to the public and to our community and resolve the sense of ambiguity that existed within this impact investing field. And lastly, definitely the most difficult article that I've read was the BlackRock Investment Institute's ESG journal. For background knowledge, BlackRock Investments are a very, very large private hedge fund based out of New York City on Wall Street. And they're championing shifts towards ESG and impact investing, especially with a sustainability lens. And given their frontrunner roles, I thought it was my responsibility to stay on top of this information, as they're a leading voice within the finance world. And although this was a tough one, and I definitely did learn, skills of perseverance and dedication and complete concentration and focus, it essentially taught me the basics of the industry transition towards ESG investing, especially from a large hedge fund's points of view, rather than an individual's point of view. And again, as I mentioned, I learned different strategies and different approaches towards ESG investing from this secondary research. Now, I know that it was a lot to take in, and definitely was a lot for me to read, to annotate, and to synthesize. But reflecting upon the secondary and primary research, essentially the main thing it did for me is increase my technical skill set. I went from a social entrepreneur who was interested in investing, to now, I would like to say, a qualified investor with the basic fundamental knowledge, and upon added on that, a sense of the ESG lenses. I essentially learned how to apply my learnings from the stock market to having an environmental, social, and governance lens, and therefore was able to add layers and layers upon my knowledge within the finance and investment world. Moreover, I was through exploring ideas for my original work and through my exploring ideas for my final product, I was actually able to apply this research, start innovating methods to apply these research to serve the community and essentially to create an ecosystem that breeds impact investing. That so that we as individuals can utilize our money to create change. Essentially, by doing these two things, I was about to be able to utilize impact investing and spreading that awareness about this field as a vehicle for me to increase my social impact, as ESG investing automatically allows you to do so. Next up came my original work, which again was a pivotal and defining part of my ISM journey. Now, as I was at a forerunner role within an emerging industry such as impact investing, I had a lot of flexibility and contemplated a lot of ideas for what could be my original work this year, tackling impact investing. And eventually, I landed upon creating a detailed pamphlet and report about eliminating the ambiguity within impact investing fields and talking about sort of my stock picks that serve the primal ESG lenses, which eventually would also set me up for my final product. As I had an opportunity to discuss this with Mr. Meek and also discuss this with Mr. Ranjan Chandramani at the start, we decided the best way to present this would be in the form of an educational infographic, which would serve to a large variety of audiences. And that way I could maximize the impact I was making by spreading awareness about impact investing. To do this, I made sure that the information was comprehensible, and was synthesized from my secondary research, and was presented in a user-friendly manner to make sure that I could appeal to investors from all backgrounds. And also, essentially, the entire purpose of this infographic was to ensure that I could present educated and comprehensible information in a compact and concise way so that it could benefit everyone. To complete sort of the pathway for my original work, it formed from hours and hours of deducing large amounts of information into bite-sized amounts of summaries and information, so that I can incorporate that in a visually appealing educational infographic. More than that, once I had decided the aspects and the information that I was about to include, I had to make sure that my design was appealing to the audiences and also user-friendly, so that they were actually attracted to reading that sort of information, as impact investing and anything financial related can get a little intimidating. On top of that, I also decided to analyze the technical and the ESG lens, as I mentioned before, aspect of each company that I picked, which can actually be seen on the next slide. As you can see, this is my entire original work, as it shows a comprehensive overview of the ESG lenses, as well as having an appealing pamphlet design. Over here is an outline of the 3 companies that I picked that I believe not only matched the technical threshold for a good company that's performing well in the stock market, but also met the ESG lenses that I was talking about before, whether that's addressing the environment, having a social impact, or having a reputable governance company. And over here with these 3 pamphlets, they show the individual ESG breakdown of each of the 3 companies I picked, whether that be Salesforce, NextEra Energy, or BlackRock. I decided to analyze the ESG aspects and not really the financial technical aspects, as my focus was on the ESG side. Now for my final product, which served as an extension of my original work. As I mentioned before, since it was a new innovative field, I had a lot of flexibility, and growing from my original work, I essentially wanted a method which I could showcase my original work while expanding on the impact I was making and increasing the difficulty of the project. And at first, I was thinking about actually implementing a portfolio, but then going back and having a discussion with myself about my values and the value I wanted to derive from this project, I decided that a portfolio was only serving to my gain. What I really wanted to do was spread awareness about impact investing. And by talking to my mentors, this time Mr. Joshua Meek, I decided to present this way in a report, in a research paper, and this way I could present the information in a user-friendly manner, while it could be employed, through all walks of life, whether that's an individual investor or an actual firm. To complete my final product, this was definitely the hardest part. And the reason this was the hardest part is because before I started to put pen to paper and actually started writing my research paper, I had to parse through all of my research. And this was definitely not easy, given the fact that I had dedicated this year, as I mentioned before, to a large part of secondary research and not too much primary research. Simply given the technicality of the impact investing field, at first I decided this was the path to go down. Definitely focus on secondary research, and simply parsing through that data, through the articles and through the summaries. It definitely was a difficult path to take, but I started off by simply breaking down my research into small bit-sized pieces. So what I'd started off was basically tackling this. A large amount of data, a large amount of research that I'd conducted and annotated, which I had to parse through and synthesize into bite-sized pieces of comprehensible information for my research paper. So I'd started from this and went down to completing my product. And how I did that was I broke my research down into small parts with a lot of post-it notes, detailing small summaries about each article, delineating book chapters and website summaries that I could incorporate into my research paper. And essentially what this process taught me of going through each article that I'd read and synthesizing the information into bite-sized pieces is not only how creative an invention post-it notes were, but also the vitality of determination and working towards a goal. Although this was a large workload, I deduced the fact that I was very passionate about delivering positive societal impact to our community by spreading awareness about impact investing. And therefore, I naturally continued to work and didn't even realize the amount of work I'd completed, essentially having parsed through about 10 to 12 research assignments and discovering ways to synthesize those different types of information into comprehensible text. And after this intimidating and determined journey, and completing this process, I'd essentially penned my research paper, authoring portions such as the history of impact investing, its shortcomings, and its applications, and how we as individuals can utilize impact investing for our betterment. After that, I was very fortunate to have Mr. Joshua Meek by my side, as he was able to review my paper, and after incorporating his advice, I had officially completed my final product. And now this, as I mentioned before, I would definitely take all of you through a trip through what my final product journey looked like. And for the most of my time, my research paper actually looked like this, just a blank screen. Because before I actually had the opportunity to pen my research paper, I had to parse through a lot of data. This is what I looked like in my hands. Although it was intimidating and a lot of research I had conducted, I had to parse through. My passion for this topic and the end goal essentially helped me persevere. And as you can see, there's a large amount of secondary research, from book annotations to the BlackRock Investment Institute guide to graduate papers and website articles. After this, I essentially like to reach what I call the top of the mountain. As you can see from this short run through, I was able to pen an abstract to my research paper, which essentially serves as a summary of what research I'd conducted. I was also able to showcase the history of impact investing, discuss standard terminology that's used within the field, which essentially helped me clear up the ambiguity that surrounded the impact investing terms. I also was able to advocate for why impact investing is necessary moving forward, both as firms and as individuals. I was able to present multiple applications of impact investing, such as within frontier economies, during COVID-19, and under the Biden administration. And I was also able to present my stock picks from my original work, while showing how as individuals we can employ impact investing to drive positive personal impact. Now, reflecting back on my journey, and especially why I decided to pen and author a research paper, it's essentially because of the impact I was delivering, as I mentioned before. And the first step, I think, to make any impact is starting at the roots. And by doing that, I was providing an education through this research paper and creating an ecosystem of positive change. Moreover, I was able to apply this research as I realized that a person is only worth how much he or she gives away. And because of doing so, I was able to share my impact investing research paper and utilize this research to serve the community. As I mentioned, creating this ecosystem. Moreover, I can personally apply it within my own investment portfolio, and my mentor, Mr. Meek, could also possibly employ it within his investment firm and company. Now, what I've learned throughout not only my final product journey, but my entire journey is the 3 Ps, which I like to say, which are proactiveness, persistence, and professionalism. Whether those come from my primary interviews, scheduling those, to parsing through my data, to completing such intensive and a high degree of difficulty projects which serve my community. Moreover, through these projects, from my original work pamphlet to my research paper, I was able to see how I could utilize my knowledge to drive positive community impact. And lastly, I was also able to grow my technical skill set, and I will make sure to carry the information I have about the stock market, ESG investing, into the future, whether that serves as a powerful hobby or as a future profession. And it's amazing to know financial knowledge at any point in your life. Now for the man behind the wheels and someone who's truly served as a guide throughout my 2 years with an ISM. My mentor, Mr. Meek, has played an integral part in my journey with impact investing and social entrepreneurship. As I first met Mr. Meek through ISM 1, he easily stood out as the perfect fit, as he was both friendly and serious at the same time and knew exactly when to pivot between work and play. Since then, Mr. Meek and I have developed a very, very amazing relationship centered around the progress of my business and as the progress of myself as an investor. Now he's helping me in different contexts, namely impact investing, while he continues to guide me throughout the world of social entrepreneurship and my personal professional life. Valuable mentor experiences, as I've mentioned, my journey with Mr. Meek has been priceless, and it's truly shaped my future and my present as well. And a few experiences that I remember were my first stock trade, which helped me understand when to buy and when to sell, which serves as a symbolic representation of the start of my journey. Also reviewing my original work and my final product, as it helped me deliver impact to the community, and how he's able to continuously provide me with his updates and I'm able to provide me with my updates to help me succeed. Essentially, all in all, he truly is a blessing for me that I've met him and had the opportunity to work with him and interact him throughout my lifetime. Now, both of my ISM journeys have been truly amazing, teaching me values that I never could have imagined and learned otherwise, such as becoming a better individual, a better investor, and a better entrepreneur. In addition, what this has helped me is strengthen my ability to serve my community and essentially create positive societal impact. It has helped me create something that has come to define my future, and I definitely look forward to carry forward these skills. Now, moving forward, I'm very, very proud that my efforts, my love of learning, and my determination has led me to attend the University of California at Berkeley, where I'll be studying electrical engineering and computer science from the UC Berkeley School of Engineering and business management at the Haas School of Business. I'm very, very excited for this amazing opportunity as I'm able to combine my interests in business and investing with a technical skill set, therefore leading me to a profession I desire while creating positive societal impact. Describing this journey thus far, I believe that I've concluded on what the purpose of all of our life is. It is to create positive societal impact and leave our mark by doing something we truly enjoy and we love. And I've learned that no matter whatever path we take, we must be the best. And we do that not by competing by others, but with competing with ourselves. And that's why I've chosen the quote for this year, "I am the greatest." I said that even before I knew I was. So let's take action, let's be the best we can, let's leave our mark, and let's continue to drive positive societal impact. Thank you so much for your time, and I really do appreciate it.